bleh. It is absolutely gnarly, this thing. Nostalgia is a hell of a thing. Stranger Things would have us believe that the 80s were all neon lights and bad haircuts and monsters made of congealed flesh tearing apart shopping malls. The people who actually lived it have other ideas. They say the 80s was mostly beige and terrible shag carpeting and bad haircuts. It wasn't all bad though. Technology back then was a lot simpler. Technology has come a long way since the 1980s. Connecting to the internet doesn't sound like Transformers making babies anymore. Phones have put calculators in our pockets and proving wrong maths teachers literally the world over. But all of this advancement does come at a cost. It has its drawbacks, and I wanted to talk about one of those drawbacks real quick. This is Xfer Serum, and it's a fantastic, really, really amazing soft synth. It can do pretty much everything you can conceivably ever want, and it can make whatever sound, pretty much, that you can conceivably ever want. It's got its own huge, extensive built-in suite of great quality effects, and I love using it, except when I have to do any of this. It's all thousands and thousands of options and menus and things and a matrix, and there's something horrible for me personally, something that just completely kills my creative workflow is menu diving. Turning knobs on a screen is completely just unergonomic and awful. Why would you play a synthesizer on a screen when you can just physically have a tactile one? It's like playing a guitar through the piano roll and clicking the notes in yourself instead of just reaching for the instrument. It's just backwards and I hate it. And that is a problem that I wanted to solve for myself personally. And that is where this comes in. This is a Formanta Polivoks. It is a Soviet designed between 1982 and 1990 dual oscillator. Effectively, it's a monosynth. It's got paraphony. It's paraphonic. You can switch the oscillators to either act in unison or act as two separate oscillators. Designed by one Vladimir Kuzmin and styled by his wife after the Soviet tanks. These are literal tank tracks. This thing can be summed up in very, very few words, and that is massive, heavy monster. This is my first synth demo ever. It's my first video about a synthesizer, so I hope I don't mess this up too badly. In terms of the layout of the Polivoks, we'll start up here. You've got modulation. It's all written in Cyrillic. I do not understand. You've got a modulation section over here. This is what I call the master section. It's effectively where your portamento and your master volume, headphone volume, and all that sort of stuff, as well as the kind of unison paraphony switch over here. You've got oscillator 1 with your footage and your waveforms, waveform shape options on each one. Modulation control, you can control all of them via the LFO up here in the top left corner. There is cross mod, similar to kind of like a Moog Model D, I think, over there, which sounds great. You can modulate the first oscillator with the second oscillator, which can lead to some really cool sounds. You've got that really, really famous, amazing Polivoks filter over here, which is just so bitey and angry and screamy and aggressive. And then over here, you have got your VCA, where you've got things like your envelope shaping. You can control that with modulation as well, and a drone switch, which is super, super cool. I actually use that quite a bit. Lastly, down here, you have a mixer where you've got oscillator 1 level, oscillator 2 level, a white noise level, which is really, really cool for just adding bite and grit to things like lead lines, and an external input level, which is really, really cool. If you want to run a bass or something through it, you can get some really killer sounds using the filter. Unfortunately, it does have to be line level, so you can't really plug straight in without some kind of hardware in between. Killer feature nonetheless. Let's get some sounds. I have queued up some MIDI. This one is MIDI modded, by the way, so you don't have to hear me slapping away on the keyboard. I can get my computer to do it for me instead. So I reckon we listen back to the bass line from the song earlier and we get some cool bass line sounds, and then we'll look at lead lines and then try and get some kind of mogy things out of it, because it's not a entirely one-trick pony. It is absolutely gnarly, this thing. Let's try now, I think, for some lead sounds. Let's see what those sound like. Oh man, this thing screams. It's so nasty. Let me just show you some kind of more maybe mogy type things. We'll try and get in that ballpark. Let's have a quick look-see. So hopefully that serves to demo that it's not entirely a screaming monster. It can do some kind of more traditional things. I appreciate that's not the mogiest sound in the world, and I'm sure somebody a bit more experienced with synthesizers could get closer. But to me, I mean, that's a perfectly usable sound. You could use that in something other than music that makes you want to hit someone with a chair, Lastly, I can't really help myself any longer. I reckon we get some pedals out. I have got a reverb pedal sat just here, so I reckon we click that on like so, and then let's get back to something resembling a lead sound, and then we'll have a quick listen. Okay, so we are all lined up with a lead sound. I'm just going to click my reverb pedal on over here. Let's get some cool sounds. It's a really, really fantastic sounding synth. It's really, really mean. It really lends itself to that kind of dark, moody, ominous electronica type vibe. In terms of kind of sonic reference points, I think maybe, the most obvious one, right, is Mick Gordon's Doom Eternal and Doom 2016 soundtracks. And then you've got things like the Cyberpunk 2077 soundtrack, which is also incredible. You should definitely go and check that out. Who else have we got? If you haven't heard of him, there is a fantastic electronic artist called Snakes of Russia, which I would really recommend you go and check out. Number one, because it's amazing, and number two, because I'm 99% sure there's a Polivoks all over that sort of stuff. So yeah, those would be my kind of like sonic touch points, touchstones, whatever you want to call it, just to kind of get a proper flavour for this monster of a synthesizer. So no, it may not have a mod matrix, it may not have FM, the oscillators are not digitally controlled, it doesn't have 1,000 preset slots, yours might not even have MIDI, but in its simplicity lays its beauty. It gets out of your way, and when you're not tinkering with 1,000 different options that you might not even necessarily need, you might actually finish some music instead of putting it all on an 80 terabyte hard drive full of Cubase projects that will eventually fail. As I alluded to earlier, this is my first ever synth related video, my first ever synth demo. I hope I did it justice. Please let me know what you thought in the comments below. Obviously I own this, so I will be using this in future videos if you want more tastes of Polivoks. If you have any questions about the synth, I will do my best to answer them in the comments down below. Just pop them down there. I do read them and I will get to you. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for bearing with me. This has been Nevermore Audio. Please check the social links in the description. We have a community forum. We're all over socials, all the Instagram and all that sort of stuff. Like, subscribe, share with your friends that love horrific sonic noise, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much.